So dunnhumby, which is one of my favorite company names to ever say, they released their retailer preference index this past week, ranking leading grocers. Now, this reflected overall this like crazy disruption in what they're calling food retailing because of this massive change in how and where customers shop for food. But the most notable change in this index, wait for it, Amazon was named the most preferred grocery retailer of all 56 grocers that were evaluated in this study.
I think Emma the answer. I think we need to start doing a tally of how often Ann says "wait for it" in these reads on each week in the Fast Five. Yeah, what do you think of that, Ann? I mean, that's kind of crazy. And by the way, I am kind of annoyed at any company like dunnhumby that insists on having their name spelled with a lowercase d. That's just annoying as hell when I'm reading your articles and trying to read.
Oh, I think it's
Anyway,
cute.
what do you think? It's cute, like Darth Vader. What do you guys think? I mean, was this a surprise for you that it jumped to the list?
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I think that there's still some questions. The skeptic in me is like, okay, so is this because they were the only place you could get groceries for a considerable amount of time throughout the last year? What is all playing into this? I think the other headline too that was announced this week is that Amazon Pantry is shutting down. So, that was for me, like I'm still shocked that that was in existence as long as it was. It was like one of the most
Right.
friction filled experiences that I think Amazon had out
Do you
there,
remember? Do
super
you remember?
confusing. So I think that as we start to get into this year, Amazon announced two more fresh stores. This is not going to change. I think this is just the start of many years to come where Amazon is going to be the on top of this list going forward, and I'm concerned for the regionals, quite honestly, because it's just going to get more and more simple to do. And it's a wake-up call, guys.
So,
Sorry.
so you don't think it's a pandemic thing? That's interesting. Yeah, like they're already at the top of the list, and they ain't never leaving the top of the mountain. Do you remember? Do you remember I think it was the first or second video we shot where we did an Amazon pantry, like
Yes.
3 4 minute video, and we showed how dumb the idea was, right? Like,
Yeah.
and now it's coming to fruition, like as we said, like. But Emma, I'll never forget that experience sitting at your kitchen table. But anyway, Emma, what do you think? Like, are you with Ann on this, or like, what are you thinking here?
I definitely was kind of surprised that Amazon has gone up like so far, and especially for food shopping. But I'm also with Anne. I mean, they're just rolling and rolling out with all of these things, and I think that they are actually going to kind of dominate this industry.
Yeah, I think I'm with you guys. I mean, I think that report is hugely telling, and the irony of the pantry announcement the same week, I think is really cool too, in the sense of like they weren't afraid to experiment. They learned things. The idea made no sense, which is they were solving the economics of shipping. That's what it is. And half those subscription companies that are out there, if not 80% of them, are doing the same thing that have no real intrinsic value. And now I think you're seeing that finally start to come to light. But yeah, I mean, they're needed during the pandemic. They're getting better at grocery delivery. They're getting better at pickup at Whole Foods. They're getting better at Whole Foods. And now they're going into more stores. I think what they announced this week too, they're going to open up, I think, a couple more stores, Amazon Fresh stores in Seattle.
Yep.
So yeah, it's this thing. You're right. That point about they're not going to stop. I hadn't thought about this is like, okay, I'm going to see this for the next 20 years, I guess. The other part that was interesting to me in the dunnhumby thing was, did you guys catch too? Target was in the top quartile for the first time. What do you think about that one? I mean, that's pandemic to me, right? Like, do you guys think that's pandemic? And
I think it's one-stop shop. I
it's a
mean,
one-stop
it's
shop,
it's
right?
just looking at the one-stop shop for the last year. Now, Target's working on expanding their grocery offerings as well, but I think that, for me the big standout was this is Amazon's going to start taking this list at the top. I think Walmart will be, very close behind, and then HEB and some of the other like, successful larger grocers. But I think it's going to come down to what we talked about before and what Emma said about the Amazon Fresh stores. Like her generation is looking for convenience,
Yeah.
especially in the grocery category. It's not going to be about these like super high end, butcher shop, cheese shop, local grocer situations. It's how do I get this in and out? How many varieties of offerings are you giving me for delivery and pickup and all these other things? And Amazon's best position to do that.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I think one of the things I hadn't thought about prior to this conversation, again, why I love doing this show is like Yeah, I mean, it's probably the Target results are probably a part of the pandemic, but they've got people using it, to your
Mm-hmm.
point. Like people are actually doing it more than they ever were before. And no one was ever happy with Target grocery before. And it is because of the convenience. Like if you can make it easy, provide good value, people will overlook things, which makes me think, and part of the reason why we think, like I was making the joke about Cornell before, like maybe next year is the time they like get some kind of partnership going in the grocery space and try to, increase the brand and the reputation around, what they're doing there. Because otherwise you're just going to fall off kind of back to, hey, do I really want to go to Target for my groceries, which is what people always used to say, especially when you've got, Amazon seemingly coming on incredibly strong.